The quiet of the Kenyan savanna can be deceptive. It can be a deep, breathless silence, broken only by the buzz of insects or the rustle of dry grass. But on a particular afternoon in 1961, the silence was shattered by a sound that defied logic, a familiar, rumbling roar. It was the call of a lioness who, for 3 years, had walked free in the wild, having shed the names and norms of the human world. Her name was Elsa, and she was not alone. This was not a fleeting visit. This was a purposeful, calculated return, a pilgrimage of memory, and a profound question mark thrown at the concept of the Wildheart. She was a mother now. Now, let's enter their world. If you're already enjoying this story, a quick like and share makes all the difference. Let us know in the comments where you're listening from today. The story of Elsa is inseparable from the people who raised her, George and Joy Adamson. They were not ordinary park wardens. They were pioneers living a life fully integrated into the raw, uncompromising beauty of Kenya's northern frontier district in the 1950s. Their world was defined by the endless ochre earth, the towering acacia trees, and the constant rhythmic struggle of survival in Meru National Park. George, the pragmatic, silent guardian of the animals. Joy, the passionate, restless artist and memoirist. Their partnership was a dynamic of contrasting energies, unified by an almost spiritual reverence for the wild. In 1956, their world changed when George was forced to kill a charging lioness to protect himself. Later, he discovered she had 3 young cubs hidden nearby. 2 were sent to a zoo, a difficult but common solution at the time. But the smallest, weakest, and most defiant cub remained. Joy named her Elsa. The Adamsons' home became her sanctuary and her training ground. Elsa was not a pet. She was a member of the family, sharing their meals, their blankets, and their daily lives. They learned her language, the flick of a tail, the subtle curl of a lip, the deep rattling purr that vibrated through the floorboards. She grew fast, a creature of immense power and curiosity, navigating the delicate line between innate wildness and unconditional domestic love. For 3 years, this unusual family thrived. Elsa learned to hunt not from a lioness, but by mimicking their human attempts at tracking. She wrestled playfully with George and napped in Joy's lap. The problem, as they knew from the beginning, was that she was a lion, and the wild was her birthright. The conventional wisdom was clear. A lion raised by humans could never be returned to the wild. The instincts, they argued, were lost forever. But the Adamsons possessed an unconventional love, driven by the belief that a wild animal must live free. This conviction set them on a path that would challenge every known truth about the bond between species. Their entire world was a countdown to a moment of impossible surrender. Decision, when it finally came, felt less like a choice and more like a moral imperative. Elsa was nearly 3 years old, a magnificent lioness, whose immense strength was now contained only by the perimeter of their camp. Joy knew that keeping her was an act of selfishness. Releasing her was an act of pure, selfless love. So began the most difficult chapter of their shared lives, the retraining. They moved their camp deeper into the wild, away from human scent, and began teaching her the harsh lessons of the true savanna. Elsa struggled. She was too trusting of other animals, too dependent on her human providers. They watched with aching hearts as she failed to bring down prey, suffering cuts, scrapes, and hunger. The moment they had to leave her for the first time, to force that final separation, was agonizing. They walked away as she stood staring, her roar of confusion echoing behind them, a sound that tore at the very fabric of their bond and questioned everything they had sacrificed for her freedom. The first few months of Elsa's wild freedom were defined by an agonizing dance of distance and dependence. George and Joy would drive out, often risking their own safety just to check on her, to ensure she was still making the effort to fend for herself. They understood the irony. They had released her to the wild, yet they remained its reluctant custodians. The true test of their success was not her survival, but her willingness to reject them. Time and again, Elsa would approach their Land Rover, her demeanor shifting between the playful cub of the past and the wary predator of the present. She would take food when offered, her instincts overriding her training, only to disappear back into the bush with a guilt-ridden swiftness that broke Joy's heart. It was an intermittent bond, a fragile thread stretched taut across the vastness of the reserve. They found themselves reading her tracks like tea leaves, searching for signs of a successful hunt, a new territory claimed, a growing confidence. Every fresh wound, every sign of distress, was a brutal reminder of the challenges they had forced upon her. The challenge wasn't just to survive, it was to socialize. Elsa, having learned the language of humans, had to now learn the nuanced, dangerous dialects of her own kind. She was an outsider, a curious anomaly to the established lion prides, a creature with human scent and an almost bizarre lack of fear toward vehicles. The Adamsons realized the true difficulty of their experiment. They had not just released a lion, they had released a cultural alien. She was frequently chased away, often attacked, and struggled to integrate. Yet through this persistent struggle, the transformation began. The desperate hunger eventually sharpened her hunting skills. The rejection from other prides slowly taught her caution. The playful nudges of George and Joy were replaced by the aggressive territorial slaps of rival lionesses. She was forced to forge a new identity, one born of necessity and hardened by the true, unforgiving crucible of the African bush. She began to spend longer periods away, her calls growing more infrequent. For the Adamsons, these extended silences were both a relief and a profound sorrow, the true measure of their success in letting go. They had to accept that their beloved Elsa was becoming exactly what they had hoped, a lion. Months stretched into a year, then two. The Adamsons' visits became rarer, their hearts growing heavier with each unanswered call. Elsa's survival was no longer a question of skill, but of pure endurance. She was battling the wilderness alone, often injured, sometimes starving, a ghost moving through the thorn bush. This was the proving ground where her human-taught confidence met the ruthless reality of the wild. She had to learn to share kills, to fight off hyenas, and to navigate the treacherous hierarchies of the dominant lion prides who saw her as an intruder. George and Joy would find her tracks near watering holes, evidence of her presence, but the lioness herself remained elusive. This period of long separation was perhaps the most crucial for the integrity of their experiment. It allowed her to fully integrate the primal code of the savanna, to trust her own claws and speed over the reliability of a human hand. Then, a new vital chapter began. Motherhood. Joy Adamson, during one of her solitary tracking expeditions, discovered clear evidence that Elsa had mated and given birth. This was the ultimate validation of their work, that the bond with humans had not sterilized her natural instincts, but merely deferred their expression. But with motherhood came compounded danger. Elsa was now responsible for 3 helpless cubs, Gopa, Jespa, and little Elsa. They were completely reliant on her, and she was still a solitary lioness in a territory ruled by established prides. Her hunts had to be riskier, her vigilance total. The Adamsons kept their distance, terrified that their scent or presence might inadvertently endanger the small family. They watched from afar, through binoculars, as Elsa taught her cubs to stalk and play, a silent homage to the lessons she herself had learned from them years ago. This cycle of teaching was the echo of their unique family structure. The question was no longer whether Elsa could survive without them, but whether the memory of their love would endure the fierce, all-consuming instinct of a wild mother protecting her young. The answer would soon be brought right to their camp. The heat of the day was beginning to wane when George and Joy heard it. Not the distant roar of territorial dominance, but the delicate, questioning meow of a house cat amplified 100-fold. It was the specific sound Elsa had made when she was a cub, a sound they hadn't heard in years, a sound meant only for them. Joy, her heart instantly recognizing the melody of a bond she thought lost, called back. They waited, breathless, as the bush parted, revealing a massive, scarred, and glorious lioness. It was Elsa, but she was different, leaner, tougher, a queen of the savanna. Yet her eyes still held the spark of recognition, the memory of human kindness. She approached slowly, circling the Land Rover, sniffing the air, ensuring that the scent of her former life was still safe. The ultimate moment of truth was the introduction. Elsa did not come alone. Trailing behind her, nervous and skittish, were her 3 tiny cubs, Gopa, Yespa, and little Elsa, wary of the strange metal beast, and the 2 upright, scentless creatures within it. The primal instincts of the cubs screamed danger, but the overwhelming authority of their mother held them in check. Elsa, by bringing them back, was not simply saying hello. She was communicating a profound, wordless truth. These are my children. These are the people who showed me the meaning of home and the value of freedom. They are safe. It was a moment of profound interspecies trust, a transfer of familial legacy across the boundaries of species. George and Joy wept. They were being accepted, not as owners or feeders, but as part of the lineage of a wild, magnificent animal. The bond they had risked everything for was not broken. It had transcended, becoming a testament to enduring love. The wild had won, but so had the heart. The reunion was not the end of the story, but the beginning of its profound legacy. Elsa continued to visit the Adamsons for several months, often bringing her 3 cubs to the campsite, where the human couple would share meat, offering vital sustenance during lean times. This arrangement was a fragile, beautiful compromise between 2 worlds. It confirmed that love, when given without expectation, creates an invisible tether, a memory of safety and kinship that transcends species, territory, and even the harshest demands of survival. The cubs learned to trust the scent of George and Joy because their mother trusted them, witnessing firsthand that the human presence could mean comfort, not just danger. This documented case challenged the long-held scientific doctrine that the instinctual boundaries between wild animals and humans are impenetrable once broken. Elsa proved that a profound bond could coexist with wild freedom. She demonstrated that release was not a betrayal, but an act of faith that allowed a wild heart to grow while keeping a special chamber reserved for its first family. Elsa the Lioness was a living testament to the power of empathy. Her story, captured by Joy Adamson's book Born Free, became a global phenomenon, changing the public's perception of wildlife conservation forever, inspiring a generation to see animals not as objects of study, but as subjects with complex emotional lives. She left behind a legacy that continues to ask us, what does it truly mean to love a wild thing? It means letting it be free, knowing that if the bond is real, it will always remember the way home. The quiet rumble of an old friend's call across the savanna echoes in a quiet corner of our own hearts. The story of Elsa is a slow, deliberate lesson that the true measure of love is not possession, but liberation. She was born free, raised loved, and returned, a lioness of unmatched spirit, to affirm the powerful, enduring potential for connection that exists between all living beings. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to light. We have a question for you. What was the single moment in this story that resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one.